Damn, I'm good. What? Huh? Ugh. Ugh. Class dismissed. Hey guys, so I decided to do an old versus new on Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe, and I don't know what compelled me to make that little skit, I just felt like it. But yeah, it's Sideswipe. I typically don't go for a lot of the Studio Series Autobots, but I kind of decided to upgrade my Sideswipe, especially after having, the dreads, especially with Hatchet coming out here soon. I really wanted a nicer Sideswipe to go with them, and I'm not really too worried about the differences between Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. It's Sideswipe. I'm not too worried if he has a cover on the car or not. And I decided, my old Revenge of the Fallen one, he's a little wibbly, he's a little old, so I figured I would upgrade him to the Studio Series, but of course, I have to do an old versus new, that's what I do. So yes, we have the original 2009 Revenge of the Fallen, Deluxe Class Sideswipe, next to the Studio Series Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe. I didn't get the Dark of the Moon one because I wasn't really sure on some of the paint application choices. Like, they didn't even paint his head silver, and it didn't really look as good, but I think the Revenge of the Fallen version looks a lot better. And I just kind of prefer the vehicle mode on it, too. I just like all the smoothness of the vehicle. And I decided what I'll probably end up doing, depending on how this video goes, if I decide to get rid of the Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe, this exists, and I really like how this looks. So I'll probably end up getting the Revenge of the Fallen Swerve at some point, if I decide to get rid of this one. Spoiler alert, I probably will. Anyways, yeah, so one of the main things you can see, they're both deluxe classes. Revenge of the Fallen was very well known for having some pretty large deluxes, and Studio Series is very well known for not having large deluxes. You can see, though, when it comes to the junk in the trunk, there are some similarities. However, I feel like the, a lot of the hood of the car on the old one isn't as obtrusive. It's on his back now, pretty much. And while parts of the vehicle still form the blades, I feel like more of the vehicle forms the blade on this. And yeah, that's a wibbly right there. That's a wibbly. But yeah, I really do like this original one. I definitely prefer it over the Dark of the Moon mold. I don't even have the Dark of the Moon Sideswipe anymore. I actually did something similar and got rid of it, and now I have Dark Steel, which is a pretty cool repaint of it. But yeah, I really like movie Sideswipe. Definitely think he would have looked better in red. That's why I'm leaning towards getting that Swerve, which was basically a G1 Sideswipe homage repaint. But still, pretty cool figures. Let's take a closer look at this Revenge of the Fallen one, because I still think it looks pretty decent. I feel like he's kind of wearing the battle mask in his head sculpt. He doesn't really have the mouth or anything showing, which I hardly recall him really having the battle mask. I mean, he might have, but the guy moves so fast, it's hard to really tell what he's really doing or what he looks like. I mean, he's kind of one of those Autobots in the movies. It's just, I'm a silver robot. That's basically what he does. He's cool, though. I like him. I've always liked the winglets on his back. I always thought they kind of looked cool. And one thing I like is you can kind of arrange them how you want, I don't really care what the instructions truly tell you to do. I can like just doing it however. I kind of did the same thing with the Studio Series. I always liked the chest. I like how the chest is a part of the car without making it, too obvious and in your face. However, he doesn't use a lot of car components for his robot mode. He uses car components for his chest, the wings on his back. He's got the blades, which I always liked this kind of pincer ability on this one. And his feet are made of some elements of the car. However, this original Revenge of the Fallen one, it's a little janky. It could be because I got a used copy. Geez, I don't even recall where I got this. This might have actually been a thrift store find, if I don't knock that one over. I swear the Studio Series actually does stand up really good. I think I got this at the thrift store or somewhere. Definitely, I remember when I got it, that was already an issue. Basically, the pin is just not tight in there, and it's just a loose joint. But at least the lower joint is posable, so I can still actually pose him. It's kind of cool that he had double elbows, though, I gotta admit. His legs are very odd. So he's got, this clear ball joint that I'm totally deathly afraid is just gonna destroy itself. But he has these, rubbery appendages to kind of approximate his weird, tendon-like structures on his hips. And you can see it's kind of on a slider, so it's kind of sliding back and forth. This was kind of his Mecha Live gimmick for the movie, because Revenge of the Fallen had this gimmick called Mecha Live, where there's at least one component to each figure that kind of moved in a unique way that you wouldn't really expect on a Transformer. I do believe he has this extra gimmick as well. You bend his knee, and that panel slides in and out. That's an additional element of Mecha Live on him. And you can see that actually works with a little piston back there too. So it's kind of cool. I do kind of miss the whole Mecha Live thing. I thought it was a pretty good idea. But his feet. Woo! So basically, they didn't really put a lot of time and effort into making sure this guy could really stand too well. Because he has some panels. You know, he's got, you know, a couple little panels from the car. And you can move his toes. But ultimately, you know, you're kind of stuck with trying to balance him on his wheels and then his toes. And obviously, you know, if you know wheels, they roll. So when your heels are literally things that roll, oh my gosh. I said you stand up good and then you don't. Oh my gosh. But yeah, when they roll, you're kind of in a kerfuffle there. I forgot he actually kind of has like a hinge at the hip too. Kind of forgot that. So you can kind of hinge it however way you want, but I'm afraid his leg's just going to destroy itself. His torso doesn't like staying connected. His head's on a ball joint, but it's also on a spring for the transformation, so that's kind of funny. Anyways. Yeah, cool little guy. I definitely like this figure. Definitely like it a lot more than the Revenge of the Fallen mold. But I think it's time that's like, I still want this toy in my collection, but now that I have this one, I just want this guy to be red. It's basically my dilemma. So yeah, it's a nice figure, but could be a little better. Enter Studio Series, where I'm pretty sure they improved most of the issues that I had with that original one. Yes, it's smaller, it is, but I don't really feel like it's as fiddly as the old one. I really like the size of the winglets on this one now. You can, oh my gosh, even leaning, he doesn't want to stand. Ridiculous. You can kind of have him more down, you can have him more up, you can have him off to the side, out, you know, out back, they look nice. His back is pretty cool. I kind of struggle to compress it in a way that I believe is proper. So it's like I kind of tilt it and then I move this down, but it can also like straighten. But then this is kind of lifted up in an awkward way. So his back is a little confusing to really figure out. But he does have nice weapon storage because he does have the guns in the robot mode. And you can just kind of store them there. So that's kind of cool. Here, let's get a gun out. You can see, you know, little tab, little slot right there. I was actually really surprised about that. And you can take his blades off. And the blades do kind of store back here if you want. But they're very loose. They're very loose on those back panels. So I would just not worry about it, really. I mean, honestly, if you want to display your Sideswipe without the blades, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really happy he has the guns, though, so I can have him do the Mexican standoff, because it's kind of why I really wanted him. Because I think that scene's just iconic in Dark of the Moon. Yeah, cool little gun. I dig it. You know, he has two, by the way. He's got two guns. But I'll just leave the one out. So his articulation is a lot better. So he also has a ball joint at the head. He has ball joints at the shoulders. His elbow only goes 90, but honestly, for a Transformer, you don't really need more than that. The hips are on proper ball joints now. He doesn't have any of the Mecha Live stuff, but I'm pretty happy about that, because I feel like I can pose him without worrying he's just going to destroy himself. Awesomely, he does, even though this is kind of approximated in the sculpt, he does retain that piston look to the knee, which is really cool. And then he has like a sort of ankle joint. But unfortunately, he doesn't have an ankle pivot. I think that would have really benefited him. But he has something that I kind of feel resembles toe articulation a little bit more. So basically, even though the wheels are still at the base of him... ridiculous. Dude's literally leaning, but he's rolling himself out. So he does have the wheel feet, you know, so he doesn't really roll too well on them, but still a kid could kind of simulate him rolling around. But still, you plant him, you can see he doesn't want to stand, but then you just pinch the toes down, and boom, perfect. He'll stand great. It's really nice how they improved that. And I think that alone makes the Sideswipe a definite winner. He also has a waist articulation, too, I almost forgot. So yeah, I think his colors are really nice. I wish he had a little bit more silver on the legs, but I think his colors look nice. The sculpt looks nice. Let's get a closer look at that sculpt, by the way, because I got to zoom in on the old but not the new. So he does not have the battle mask. He actually has his mouth and everything showing, which I really like movie Sideswipe's look. Again, I wish he was red, but Michael Bay had a thing against red robots. Ironhide couldn't be red. Ratchet couldn't be white and red. Sideswipe can't be red. But Dino can be red because Ferrari demanded it. So yeah, it's kind of funny how these movies worked, isn't it? So setting the Studio Series Sideswipe back, let's try to transform this old one. So I think this is how that works. And it is kind of nice you can have him in the robot mode with these kind of on his upper arms if you want. Let's just start yanking him apart, I guess. It's been quite a while since I've transformed this guy, but we'll figure it out. I mean, it's just a little robot boy. It can't be that hard, right? Yeah, see, look, since most of the car's on his back, I feel like we're already there. Look at this. Most of the car's just on his back. I know his feet were a little more complex, but I'm sure I can figure it out with the power of science. Yeah, I do kind of like how the panel kind of makes the wheel more on the interior of the leg. That's one thing I really liked about movie designs is that the wheels and everything, they're on the insides. I always thought that looked so cool. It's like, whoa, the wheel's on the inside of him. But then the toys oftentimes just replicated it as, oh, the wheel is on the side of the leg. You know, they didn't really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that it looked as faithful as it could. So I think one of the main things with him is figuring out how to divide his chest from his backpack. Because that was there we go. So the chest is a part of the backpack, but there's like this hinge right here you have to work with. So let's see if I move his head down, if that'll help any. Let's see. We're making progress. Revenge of the Fallen was the toy line that actually made Hasbro as a company shift gears with their Transformers toys to focus in on... So you actually have to have that. You have to have those moved out all the way to have clearance. That's odd. So yeah, Revenge of the Fallen was the line that made Hasbro realize, I think we've made these a little too complicated for kids. So that's why a lot of future lines, like Dark of the Moon and Prime First Edition, dialed it back a bit and made them a lot simpler. But you can see, Sideswipe, even though he does have some tricks, like that order of operations actually was pretty involved. He does have some tricks up his sleeve, but overall, you can see we're pretty much there. Just got to get the arms situated in. Yeah, there we go. This guy's pretty smooth to put together. Nothing too difficult. And once you get the arms in, try to figure out some of these panels. Here we go. Here's Sideswipe in his very sleek car mode. Always have loved Sideswipe's alt mode. I always thought it looked super cool. I mean, look at that. Look at that. That's sweet. I really want it in red. I really do. So I'm thinking no matter what, even if I decide to keep this around, I think I need to grab Swerve, because this mold will look so good in red. I need to look into what other repaints they've done, because I know there was that one Dark of the Moon repaint of this. It was like blue and yellow. Ooh, that's a good one. Even though I do think the mold was kind of modified. I think that was the sidearm Sideswipe. But yeah, this is a very nice car. It goes together pretty decently. It was just that order of operations where you need to fan out those panels to actually get the windshield through. But that windshield, look at that blue. I got to give it to Revenge of the Fallen. Even though some of the transformations weren't too fun, even though some of the robots were kind of wibbly and janky, I can't recall a single Revenge of the Fallen figure with a bad alt mode. I can't. I'm thinking. I have my eyes closed thinking, and I can't. So, yeah, this one, even though it's old, doesn't like standing up, a little wibbly, definitely still a good figure, for sure. And then, let's take this Sideswipe, the new one, and figure this out. Now, one thing I'm not sure if you can actually store the weapons for transformation. I've not tested this. I don't see why not, but we'll find out. We'll find out together. So I've actually only transformed this guy like once, I think, so far. So bear with me. bear with me, please, as I attempt to transform this this children's toy. Transformers actually aren't for kids much nowadays. It's mostly the adults buying them. Yeah, okay. I have probably seen, when it comes to like kids that are like playing with toys out and about in the real world, probably the toy that I see kids playing with the most, boys specifically, are Transformers, for sure. I think I've seen like 2 boys walking around with Earthrise Wheeljacks at some point. I've seen some rescue bots. Saw someone in like an IHOP when like the last night was out that had a like Dragatron. Infernicus, was that his name? No. The big dragon. The big leader class dragon that I never got for whatever reason. So yeah, the guns can actually stay in there. That's cool. Yeah, I have no idea why I never got that dragon. Kind of regret not getting it. I don't know if it's expensive nowadays. It's one you hardly see. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, you hardly see that dragon on the aftermarket at all. Dang. When's the last time I've even seen one for sale anywhere? Like, I don't see it at local toy stores. I don't see it anywhere. And I think his name wasn't Infernicus, because that was the like the combiner from the last night. Was it Dragatron? Was that his name? Was his name really as unoriginal as Dragotron? I think so. I think that was his name. Okay, we're almost there. It's just having the typical Studio Series fiddly bits that don't want to cooperate with you all the way. You know, typical Studio Series. Oh, jeez. Okay. Yeah, this is one issue with Studio Series stuff. This is why I typically avoid getting some of the Studio Series Autobots, because they're so much smaller than so many other figures, and it just makes their transformations so much more of a pain in the ass. It really does. Because, like, the front end's fine. Front end's done. But now I have to try to piece all these panels together. And it's just not cooperating with me too much. There we go. Needed a little bit more of a shove, I suppose. So let's just get that panel in. There we go. And this panel, almost there. We're getting there. And then because the weapons are individual pieces, those need to be inserted. There we go. So, pretty much almost together. See, like right there, that's a little fiddly bit you have to worry about. That windshield just has to go right underneath the other windshield. And then you have to take stuff apart. There we go. Tiniest little things you have to worry about. They're very fiddly. And then this piece, I'm going to assume this goes here. Right here. Oop. Bye. Okay, let's plug it into the thigh first. And then plug that in. There we go. That's a little better. Honestly, this is kind of upsetting for me. They look a lot better in robot mode, but the fact that the blades are such a crucial element to the vehicle mode. This is one of those figures that I can classify as, if you lose the weapons, you're kind of out of luck. But, look at that. Ooh. Ooh, that is slick. As long as it stays together. Stay together. Good enough. I'll take it. Man, this is slick. Oh my gosh. That is a slick looking car. I don't feel like it's as well put together as the original one. Just because you do have actual separate pieces you have to worry about. But, I mean, looking at them, they're pretty similar. I'm getting a similar vibe off of how they're built and how they're engineered. When it comes to the alt mode, I kind of miss this blue windshield, but I understand it's not as accurate. I really like the single hood right here. The big old split down the middle did kind of break up how this looks. Man, I can't really pick in the vehicle mode. I like them both. I like the lights on this one. This one doesn't have any of those lights at all. Ooh, the wheels. Man, I can't pick a favorite wheel either. Probably the Studio Series. I like the Studio Series ones a lot. Man, it's a tough pick. It's a tough pick when it comes to the alt mode. But when it comes to the robot mode, it's a pretty easy pick that the Studio Series is better. It's definitely a bit of a shame with the downscaling, but you have to think they're trying to be more in scale with Studio Series. So that, and it's kind of Transformers has definitely suffered from shrinkflation, you know, trying to downsize the part count and the size of it itself to make up for the rising costs of production. So there we go. There is the old versus new on Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe versus Studio Series Deluxe Sideswipe. Which one's my favorite? The Studio Series, for sure. For sure it's the Studio Series. But that doesn't mean that I dislike the original Revenge of the Fallen at all. I just think that this exact version of this toy is currently redundant in my collection. I don't need 2 Sideswipes, so I'll get it as Swerve. I might get that, you know, sidearm Sideswipe blue and yellow repaint from Dark of the Moon. I definitely love Sideswipe's design. I want to get the Human Alliance at some point because that looks really cool. I just don't really think I need, you know, tons of different versions of them. So in this case, I do believe I'll probably be passing this one along to someone else. However, I want the mold for sure. I'll get Swerve. Thankfully, it's an inexpensive toy. I don't have to worry about paying any more than probably about $15-20 for it. So, there we go. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. How do you kind of feel about the differences in engineering nowadays? Differences in size? Because I can definitely tell the Studio Series when the engineering's a lot better. But also, you know, the size and everything does kind of limit it in some ways. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with the fact that the blades are separate pieces. Because if they're lost, let me just show you. If you lose his blades, like if you find the Sideswipe used or something, say hello to your Sideswipe. He looks like he's gouged out. It's not looking good. I would not be happy with this, you know, because it's funny. I took this guy on a road trip because I was like, hey, you know, it's kind of a long road trip. I like having something to fiddle with. And I'm like, oh, I just got this guy in the mail. Let me just open him up and I'll fiddle with him on the road. I didn't take any of his accessories because I didn't want to lose any. And when I transformed him, I was like, oh, the blades were a part of the car. Okay. So yeah, definitely not the biggest fan of that, like, design philosophy in general. But despite that, I like them both. Definitely, in this case, I recommend either of them. If you want a classic Revenge of the Fallen Sideswipe, get the old one. Because it's definitely nice. Definitely try to get one in better condition than mine is. Be wary of those clear ball joints at the hips and the rubbery connectors. Because even though the connectors are not structural, they're just cosmetic, that clear ball joint is very structural and very integral to the figure's functionality. But if you find one in good shape and you like it, you're not going wrong with either of these, honestly. I think they're both really cool toys, really nice interpretations of the character. I just prefer the new one, because I just think it fits with what I have nowadays. But I definitely, like I said, as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going on TF Wiki and looking at all the different color schemes of this guy. Because I want to pick. I want to pick what my new one's going to be. It'll probably end up being Swerve. Alrighty guys, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to channel members. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Alrighty guys, have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.